Alright, hey there everyone. Happy Orktober. I always really love October. For me, it definitely marks the beginning of fall, which of course, like, today in Chicago was not very fall-like. It was actually quite humid, and I took the dog on a walk before this, and now I'm like, so hot. It's just the humidity is the killer. But like, we had to turn our air conditioning back on. It was just a pain. Alright, so I'm going to mix up some skin tones to get started on our Orc Shaman guy here. And we're going to start with some of our Scale 75 Artist Acrylic, the Moss Green. And we're still going to add a little bit of flesh tone. And then I want to add some deeper, more vibrant greens. And even a little blue. I've really been loving my new paints here, both the Chimeras most of all, I would say. But also these Scale 75 Artist Acrylics. They're very familiar feeling. They work just like, you know, more traditional artist acrylics, and they come in a tube and all that good stuff. I'm also going to add a little bit of red ochre to this, just to sort of, there's a lot of green here. I just want to, you know, teeny little drop of that will sort of calm things down just a bit. So we're mixing up a base coat for some blue-green-ish orc skin. And I wanted to make a decent amount of it, since we'll be working our shadows and highlights from this as well. And actually, Haksa's got quite a bit of skin. Alright. I think that's pretty good, actually, for what I want. So, got my size 2 brush here to get started. And then I'm just going to put some on his leg to sort of make sure that I kind of like what I'm working with. And so far I'm pretty pleased. It's got some you know, it's still green. So we're still sort of in the realm of orc tones, but it's a little more blue, it's a little less olivey colored. And I think we're going to have some fun with him and give him some, like, face and body paint and stuff along the way here, too. Hey, Luke. Yeah, this model is kind of nuts. Like, he has 0 feet on the ground. But yeah, I wanted to try to do... He's a shaman, so I didn't want to make him quite so traditionally orc green, you know, that sort of kind of vibrant mossy color, olive-y color. Wanted to make him a little more, I don't know, marine green. Because yeah, he's kind of, he has damage abilities, but he is also a healer, so and then I kind of like that, you know, even the orcs have a little bit of variability in their skin tones. Because yeah, I'm doing, so there's, in this game there are humans, orcs, elves, dwarves, and then there are minotaurs, and then they're coming out with goblins and undead races too. And so far for the elves and kind of the humans that I've painted, I've been doing different skin tones for them. So like the elves are, I just finished one that's a drow. I did one that's like a night elf, and then the more traditional lighter skinned elves I've done. Of course, the humans that I've done, like a lot of them don't really have, the one guy is like barely has any face, and he's supposed to look kind of old and mummified. So I did him with a very, like, indeterminate, I suppose you could say, skin tone. Like, he could be anything. The other guy's, like, barely has a face because he's wearing so much armor. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with different skin tones. Especially now, too, that I'm getting to use these, like, fancier paints and stuff. I've been using a lot of these Chimera colors and Scale 75 Artist Acrylics. And I think the mixing results that I'm getting are better, you know, a little more vibrant. You know, a little more precise to what I've been envisioning, I suppose. Let's get his hand. So I've been talking up a storm about these Chimera paints. The really interesting thing is that they are each a single pure pigment. So, like, you know, the magenta is like a pure magenta. There's nothing mixed in to make it the color that it is. It's just that one magenta pigment. And then the interesting thing about that is when you go to mix your own colors, it's actually a lot more accurate because you don't have, you know, other pigments buried in there that are fighting the kind of color choices that you wanted to make. So I've been recommending these to, like, just about everybody. They're a little harder to get, though. It's like they have to be hand bottled and I don't know, fancy artisanal paints. But with them, like, I didn't even have to really, you know, like, I knew pretty much the color that I wanted to get here for his skin, and, like, I didn't really even have to try very hard to get it. So I basically did a little bit of the Scale 75 Moss Green, a little bit of the Scale 75 Pink Flesh, and then I added 2 drops of the Chimera Phthalo Green, 1 of the Phthalo Blue Green shade, and 1 drop of red oxide, just to sort of desaturate a little. And we got this nice slightly blue orc skin. I mean, it's obviously, it's still very green, but it's not like quite as olivey green. Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of skin to cover here. The other thing that I think is going to be good here is I was sort of looking through, like, I didn't really might have much of a plan for Haksa here, apart from, like, I knew what I wanted to do with the skin tone. But he's got, like, you know, this other sort of cape and fabric and stuff, and I'm like, I just don't really know, like, what color I want to do for that. So I was looking online for, you know, reference images and cool pictures of shamans and whatnot, and one of the main colors seems to always be red. And of course, if you go too red with orc skin, or too green with orc skin, and then do red clothes, they look like Christmas. So I think doing the slightly more blue tone here is going to lend itself to some red fabric a little better. Yeah. I don't need to be singing Christmas carols for my orcs. But we'll see. I may tone down the red just a little bit too. Go slightly more towards maroon. This arm over here. Like I said, dude's got quite a bit of skin actually. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of like purple for the orcs, like very dark maroon, and it's been working real well. I think for Haksa we will go a little closer towards a more red maroon, but then the other orcs are like more green too, so. I have to say, like, I've kind of been looking forward to this guy, and yet putting him off just a little bit. He is probably one of the most unique models, pose-wise, that I have ever gotten to do. Just, I mean, he's crazy. He's up here on his, it's, in the game, the rule for it is, like, it's a staff, but I'm not really sure how he's carrying this thing around. It looks like a full-on totem pole to me. Alright, I'm just gonna make sure he's got a good, solid base coat everywhere. I still need to do his face, too. And then we'll move on to our sort of my typical warm shadow, cool shadow, skin tone methodology, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, no. I mean, he would, I have a small case, and if I take him off the little holder thing I have down here, he would fit in my little travel case, but not by too much. Thankfully, traveling with models and paints and stuff is not something that I have yet had to do on an airplane. We kind of stick around like Midwest conventions and such. I also totally forgot his hand up here. Actually, wait. This hand has a half glove. Never mind. So, that one doesn't, though. We've got knuckles and lower fingers. It's always a little surprising sometimes you start painting something and you're like, oh, I did not see that. I'm sure I get into all these little detail, like nooks and crannies in between the feathers and such. I'm a little worried that I'm gonna end up poking myself in the face with his stick here one of these times, or smacking it on the camera. Although, truthfully, for as crazy as he is, he's actually pretty well balanced. He doesn't tip over super easy or anything, so. Alright, let's get his face. ears with really big plugs in them. His neck. Yeah, you can totally see how, like, if he wasn't very well designed, how much of a pain he could be. But he's actually decently well balanced. Although he's got like this crazy kind of almost manic Joker smile. Alright, looks like I need a little more of a coat on this upper leg and a little bit here on this arm. Like I said, I do want to make sure that I've got good solid base coats everywhere. And then his face is definitely going to need one, but since I did that last, I'm going to wait for that paint to dry a bit. And make sure we are good to go pretty much everywhere else. go ahead and put another coat on the face. Because next we will want to do like his eyes and everything before and probably at least blacken his mouth for now. Just because I like to do eyes pretty much right after the base coat, because I knows I mess things up. And his eyes are a little bit different than most models, because like they actually have like the pupil and iris hollowed out, which is a little weird, but we'll make it work. Alright, and in the meantime, some water here. Okay. That's about dry. I'm gonna go ahead and get out, set him down. Get out my P3 black and white, and then as far as what color do I want his eyes to be? I'm gonna go with this like orangey yellow. Alright, if I can reach it. Yes. It's kind of like a almost a pumpkin color. But it definitely looks like very wild and almost a little feral, I think. And I think we'll be echoing some of that color in the feathers that we're gonna do. Alright, so to start with, I fill in the entire eye with black. And it gets everywhere. Not gonna lie. And then I'm also going to blacken sort of the outline of his mouth. Say that the eyes look dry. I have to wait a little bit longer for the eyes this time around. It's like I said, they've got like the pupils and stuff like sculpted in. So we're kind of going to be working around that just a little bit. I have certainly seen other models that have it, but they're all like larger scale, and even then it's not consistent. So this guy's kind of on a bit on the verge of needing that. I tend to feel it's unnecessary. But then again, like, painting eyes does not trouble me, so hey Patrick, thanks for the subscribe. I'm too far away. Teviston, welcome. Hello. I'm working on getting some that was a mess. Alright, working on getting some eyes on this guy. I'm gonna hope they don't end up looking too... Yeah. I have white paint all over this one. There's just always... I don't know. Both of these eyes may be shit eyes. Until I get them fixed up. Whoa, 3 months, Patrick. Thank you. Alright, I'm going to clean up around where I got white everywhere. But yeah. Did a little better with this outside eye, but not a ton. Alright. Now I'm going to fill in where I want my iris to be, which in this case is going to include some of this weird... Nope, that's too much. I already don't like this. Yeah, sometimes eyes, like, normally I don't have a problem with them, but this one has sculpted pupils, and I'm not really sure that I'm crazy about it. Yeah, Teviston, I have long followed the Meg Maples 6-step eye tutorial, and it is truly wonderful. And typically, I do just fine with eyes. This one is being a teeny bit of a pain in the ass. Good luck, Patrick. Thanks for popping in for a bet. Alright. Okay, so here's where, like, I want to add some color. But we'll see. Alright, so I've got some of the orange in there. I'm not getting the nice outline for the iris like I typically like. So we may be coming back. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with it, to be perfectly frank. Like, I can see, you know, in some ways why you would do it, but I'm not really sure. I'm not sure I'm a fan. Okay. Now I've got a little more of an outline on the iris. So I'm going to go ahead and put black back in to the hole for the pupil. Okay, that's looking a little better. I know it's like, it's hard to see. There we go. A little better. We're still going to have to add a little bit of white back into the eyes, but again, if he doesn't have a lot of it because he's looking forward, I think that's fine. So what I'm going to do is sort of carefully add the white reflective dots here and try and get them placed right on the edge between the pupil and the iris color. Alright, and then we'll try and clean up this just a bit, and that's okay. And then do another white reflective dot. And then add just a little more white to his eye over here. Alright. think that's alright. And then hopefully he doesn't look too cross-eyed. Okay, and then I'm going to take some black. I've just got a little bit to clean up around that. Needs it like right in here and a little bit. Alright. And then he truly needs just a little bit of white back in the inner corner of this eye. Okay. Fingers crossed. And now, because I have like black paint, let's get him under the camera. Now I've got black paint like everywhere. So this is why I do this before I get too carried away with the rest of the skin tones. Like it's a lot easier for me to keep in the lines with the mouth, but with the eyes, it gets everywhere. So I do them first after I base coat before I do anything else, because now I can take my base coat and like clean up all of what I've messed up, and it's no big deal. So anywhere like he's just got, you know, a lot of black, he looks like he's wearing like heavy eyeliner, I can take my base coat and sort of clean that up. I mean, of course, leaving a little is good. It's nice to have some of that outline for sure. But, like, I've got some almost, you know, over here on his nose, so. And he's got a lot, like, underneath his eyebrows. Okay, so that is definitely the most I've struggled with eyes in a long time. I'm gonna maybe remember that as I look at models and be like, oh, maybe I don't want the model with sculpted pupils. Trevston, what was the bust you got? I'm always looking for fun new models and stuff, so. I've sort of decided recently that I need to... Judgement has shown me, and, like, the 175mm scale figure I've done have shown me that, like, I actually do really like painting some larger models. I have painted one bust ever, one 75mm scale figure ever. I have been doing a bunch of these Judgement ones. Cursed by creepy tables. Are those some of the ones that, do you know Jessica Bathory? I think she's been painting some of those models, and, like, to absolute incredible effect. Like, she does this kind of almost comic booky style, and they've been turning out really neat. But yeah, having done several of these Judgement models now on the couple bigger ones, I'm like, I just want to do some bigger models. Which is interesting, because what I just have buckets of are the smaller 32mm figures. And I'm not really exaggerating when I say I have buckets of them. It's almost embarrassing. Alright, so for my warm shadow, I'm going to actually take some magenta and add it into this, blue-green base coat that I've made. Just so that it has, until it has a bit of like a warmer kind of blush color. I like the magenta here. I'm using the Chimera Colors one. It is probably one of my new favorite paints ever. I like it with these skin tones. I like it with glow. You know, I like it as everything. I want to put it in everything now. And the nice thing about it is it doesn't really get, when I mix it in with the green, it doesn't really get super muddy, which is one of the nice things about these Chimera pure pigment paints is you know, you would think like, oh, magenta, that's gonna turn things kind of brown and muddy gray, but really it just gives it a little bit of a nice purple hint, which for a green skin tone is kind of what you need for some of that warmth. I always like to do a warm shadow in any skin tone that I'm doing, whether it's you know, more traditional like actual human tones, whether it's more like fantasy tones like drow or orc. Yeah, actually go ahead and post the link, Travis, and I'll make sure that I can approve it here, and because I would love to pop that up for myself, because I'm always looking for new stuff, and maybe it'll be like a Halloween treat to myself. Alright, so I've kind of made up some of these paints. I continue to do... Excellent, thank you for the link. I'm actually going to click on that now so I can save it up on my computer. I already know which one I'm getting. That was fantastic. Yeah, I may get that cursed one too. That is just incredible. Although I do like the undead nymph lady. That's super neat. As I get distracted by more pretty things. Okay, so these paints that I'm using, typically I like to do 2-brush blending with my P3 paints. It's kind of just how I've learned how to blend. It's become very much a habit. With these Chimera paints and these scale color artist paints, I have to be much more careful. I can't just put the brush in my mouth and not worry about whether there's paint on it or not. If I blend, I'm making sure I'm rinsing out my brush first. So there's that caveat. You guys can't really necessarily see it, but I'm always putting a clean, rinsed brush in my mouth rather than anything with paint on it. So, like, I know the P3 paints are like certified European food grade safe. Anything else? Maybe not so much. Yeah, I think I saw one of those on the El Greco site. I've kind of been shopping around for models and stuff recently, just for fun. And El Greco is a great site because they have so many models from such great companies. Alright, so for this warm shadow, what I'm doing first is kind of getting it under some of the muscle forms. You know, anywhere it's going to be real dark. And it's definitely decently purple, so I'm kind of trying to blend it out. But again, this will kind of make it look like he's living and has blood flowing under his skin, despite the fact that he's green. We pretty much never believe that something is alive, as far as like a humanoid figure, until we can see a little bit of warmth in the skin tone. So it's just like a necessary part of painting skin. And then some of the places where you want a little extra is kind of around the knees. Blood flows pretty close to the surface in the knees, which I'm sure we've all scraped our knees more than a few times riding bikes as kids or whatnot. And we all know that skin is thin and it breaks and bleeds easily, so. Knees, toes, hands, all that good stuff. And this guy's got particularly knobby legs here. Like these are the tops of his tibia and fibia. I think those are the right bones. Alright. Just gonna make sure I got plenty under the thigh here. That will be nice and shaded. Have some good warm shadows back there. Same with, or just kind of get some good dark stuff in here, since we can't really see it very well anyway. And some of these things, what I'm kind of doing is, it's more like a heavy glaze than anything. And then I'm just using my blending brush to sort of feather out the edge. Most of these Judgement models that I've been doing are for the personal collection of myself and my husband. I do commissions on this channel, plenty. But these are kind of what I had ready to go. And it's nice too for me to balance some of like commissions, like some Guild Ball stuff that I've done. That was a commission. You know, I've got several like one-off models that I do. I've got a couple mini crate ones that I've done in the past. I've got a couple more coming up. I've got some more on the way. This guy in particular is for myself. Kind of. There's a whole game that goes along with these guys. Really great fun game. And my husband, Chad, really likes to play. He's out now, playing Judgement at our friendly local game store. But we have Warfare Weekend coming up. And not only am I teaching a couple classes using Judgement models, there's also a very big, it's like the North American Championship tournament for this game. And Chad's kind of been poking around, trying to decide what he wants to play, and like he had all of these options of different war bands put together, different teams. And you know, they have differences in like what are their strengths and weaknesses, and then what I did was I'm like, you know what? One of these war bands I've only painted like one model out of, which is insane because once I finish a couple of these here, I will have the game halfway to fully painted, and I'm like, we can maybe choose a war band where I really only need to paint like 2 or 3 models. So I'm like, you know what? Give me Haksa, which is this guy. Give me Victor and Algarath, which is the halfling and the demon that I was working on last week. And go with the warband that had those in them. Because these are the ones that I'm like more interested in painting anyway. So there's some compromise there as to whether they're truly for me or not. But that's what a good marriage is all about, right? Compromise. Although I kind of get that sometimes it's, you know, compromising, like, you're buying what figures again? Oh, I love Fujasha. I can't wait to paint her again. I did her for Crystal Brush. And I actually made the cut to online voting. But she's just an incredible model. Love it so much. And the Svetlana model too. Like with her lamp. Such a classic druid. I would have to say, like, most of the models in general I'm pretty excited by. I think the ones that are, like, lower on my list are probably, like, Barnascus. But he's going to be real high on someone else's list because it's like he's in a tank. So Barnascus is lower on my list, the dwarf in a tank. I would say Kogan is lower on my list. Probably Alan Deere. But then it's like the rest of them, I'm like, yeah, I have an idea for that, or yeah, I have an idea for that. I just think all around the Judgement models are really cool. And, you know, that's certainly why I've been painting a lot of them on stream. Because they're really neat. Alright, let's get in here. I'm gonna make this nice and rosy and try and blend that out a little. We're gonna add some more towards the other end of that. Like, but I do want to make sure that we're getting our shadows in here. I'm not really leaving like harsh lines. And we're still kind of gonna get under this muscle a bit. So this is definitely adding some warmth to, you know, his very green skin tone. But he's got a lot of skin, so gotta keep on going. So, yeah, I think the warband that, these are going to be a part of are focused more around curse. So, there's Haksa, Nephany, Victor, and then I think he's using Marcus and Donrakar? Or Marcus and Thrommel. I'm not really sure. It's something to facilitate some knockdown or whatever for Nephany, I think. So that is... I'm short a hero? 3, 5, 6, 7. Cruel for soul gazing. Who am I missing? Shoot. Don't remember. Fazil. I think Fazil's gonna be in that. And since he's gonna be brand new, he'll sort of count as painted for the purpose of the JNAC, so... And I know I'm gonna try and get my brushes on Fazil, like, probably almost right away after that weekend. I cannot wait to make him look like Arthas and Invincible, because I am that kind of nerd. Alright. So I'm just getting some warm shadows and warm tones in this very, very like blue-green skin. Warm tones are super necessary so that we believe the thing that we're looking at, as if it's a humanoid, can be like a living thing. I like to reiterate as I go along, because we have viewers come in and out. So if I've already said that, bear with me, because I like to sort of, explain as I go along. And to make the warm shadow here, I mixed some Chimera color magenta into our base skin tone. Because it adds some nice kind of purpley warmth. And we're kind of gonna just do a lot of it back here. Yeah, Fazil's the new undead guy. He's coming out at Warfare Weekend, the second weekend of November. And probably shortly thereafter he's like a pre-release there, or will be releasing there. I'm not 100% sure exactly which. But yeah, he's the undead guy on a horse, and he's awesome. Like, it's such a cool model. yet again, Judgement is just killing it on the models. Like, really nailing the look. But yeah, I've like already got my reference art picked out for him. Just super cool. Alright. Just a little bit more here to go on these warm shadows. Like I said, this guy's got a lot of skin, so typically when that's the case, I do really like to, you know, focus in. He's gonna have, like, this is kind of gonna be what a lot of this model is. So, you know, spend a little extra time on one of the main focuses, and I always feel like that it's time well spent. Alright, and then I started painting. He's got a half glove here, which I kind of started painting as I'm like, oh, I gotta paint his hand. But that's not really skin. Alright. Hey Draco's, hi Rikers! Thanks for joining in with a raid. That always seems like, you know, a throwback from my WoW days. And I come defeat the boss. Only this guy's a shaman, and I don't know, he does damage, but he's kind of a healer. You always need your healer. How have you guys been? have to figure out giveaways. I do have some loot to give away. But I don't know that I have anything in particular ready at the moment. But I'm like actually starting to get enough people and enough viewers where I'm like, I could do a giveaway. This would be great. Weak and tired? That's a bummer. Have you been sick? Alright. Yeah, good. Go to the doc. I'm always jealous of you Canadians for being able to, like, go to the doctor when you're sick. Our fucking healthcare system. But yeah, anyway. I hope it's easily fixable. And then Drakios, that's really cool. I love Bob Ross. I have a t-shirt that I frequently wear of, like, no mistakes, just happy accidents. And it always makes me feel just a little better. Yeah, we tease my brother that, so I'm the oldest. My sister's 2.5 years younger than me, and then my brother is 11 years younger than her. So we always tease him that he was kind of like, woo, you were a surprise. Happy little accident. Alright, I need a little more right here, I think. And then let's do the face. You need a lot of warm tone in the ears, the temples, the cheeks, and the nose. And then we will be moving right along. Get some of our darker shadows in there, and then highlights. I always feel like highlights are where it sort of all comes together. Although he's not looking too bad right now. I frequently feel like doing the shadows on the skin is where it's kind of like, this looks like shit. This is the shit phase. And then I get to, like, the highlights. I'm like, oh, hey, this actually looks okay now. I recently taught a class at my local shop on skin tones. and the guys there were definitely like, I feel like I'm still in the shit phase. I feel like I'm still in the shit phase. Like, don't worry, we just have to get to highlights. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is actually turning out. I'm like, see? I gotcha. Oh, and I have totally forgotten all about his neck. We're gonna do a lot of that in this shadow too. Well, no one's supposed to look at like the underside of the minis. Mostly I just paint that black or leave it black primer if it's dark enough and be done with it. Oh yeah. That's definitely one of the sort of benefits to the zenithal priming, is that like up under here it's all just black. Alright, this dude's got the creepiest of creepy smiles. I mean, Chad did get home, but he is wearing a shirt. I don't think you can see him anyway. Alright. I think we're done with the warm tone. What I'm gonna do next for the cool tone is add a little bit more of this blue separately from the warm tone. We're gonna mix them in. And this will be our more cool tone, help give a little extra volume, a little extra contrast to all of these muscles. Speaking of muscles, I've been spending a lot of time in my painting chair, and mine are a bit sore. Too excited about Judgement models. The primer I use for my models, this is, this primer was airbrushed on. I use, currently, I've got scale 75, primer. It's just like a brush on slash airbrush primer. I've got black and white and gray. But for the zenithal priming, I do black and then I do white just from one angle above. And I like it. It seems to adhere better than the Vallejo primer that I was using before. I continue to waffle on whether I'm gonna grab some, like, Stynylrez Res primer ever, which I obviously, everyone has excellent things to say about. But, yeah. I'm currently using the Scale 75 stuff. I like it. I'm not sure it's like 100% better than anything else out there, but and then I have some rattle cans too. I think it's Duplicolor Sandable something. For when, if and whenever the weather is nice. Which you never can count on in the Midwest. Alright, I'm just mixing up some of the darker, cooler shadow colors still. I wanted to add a little more blue to it. Added a teeny little touch of black just to darken it a little more, and kind of desaturate it. These paints are these Chimera paints are very saturated, and I added a drop of the phthalo blue red shade, so it's the blue that tends a little more towards violet. But yeah, they do, and it's nice. It's I get it in these 60 milliliter bottles, and mine have lasted now. Like I just recently replaced the black primer, which I use the most of. I think it took about 2 years to go through a whole bottle. So yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Alright. So I've got my cool shadow color. And finding my blending brush. But yeah, Patrick, you were telling me about one of their gloss primers, I think? Or was that AK Interactive had a gloss primer? I need to pick some of that up. There are some Drukari ships and stuff to prime for some color shift paint here eventually. Okay, so this cooler shadow I'm using much more sparingly. Color shift paints, Rikers? Yeah, they're nice. I have certainly been... We just did these 40K bikes, and they turned out really neat. Yeah, hand me one. So, this is the one of the rider bike things, and
It's a reaver.
a reaver.
They're called reavers.
Okay. I don't know the names of these. Whatever. GW. And it's got this really great, like, purple-green shift. This is the, I think it's called Borealis Green.
Yep.
And it's really neat. So yeah. But Chad's been painting these mostly. I just airbrushed the color on because he's still learning airbrushing. And then he did the rest. But yeah, they work out really nicely for sci-fi too, I think. But you're supposed to use like a gloss black primer for best effect, and we don't have any of that yet. So I did black primer, and then I like gloss coated the green over just like with a gloss paint on gloss varnish. Anyway. There may be a really, semi-gloss black. There may be a big, like, beetle creature in my future somewhere, so trying to figure out the best methodology for that. Yeah, I can see how, like, bugs, any kind of bugs, are a good place for it. Like, these vehicles are a good place for it. Like, big robots would be a really cool place for it. With this cooler shadow here, I'm trying to kind of just get the lower parts of the forms. I'm also trying to not fully cover up any of the, like, or all of the warm shadow that I did. Obviously, some of it's getting covered up, but yeah, I think I saw the how they worked out on those eggs, the pterosaur eggs you did. I thought that was really cool. I lurk on social media. I stalk, for sure. But I really like they look kind of black and shiny. Excellent. I don't have the Celestial Azure, I don't think. But I do have the Darth Blue. I really wanted that color, so I got the set of 6 that has it. And that's kind of the one I thought about for, like, this big beetle thing that... Well, we don't have it yet, but I'm fairly certain that it will be purchased at some point. My dog has a big, frustrated sigh for the thought of, I don't know, purchasing GW models.
You've already purchased so many GW models.
I don't know, she seemed to have things to say about Alariel.
Alariel's sweet. She's riding a big, scary beetle thing.
It is a big, scary beetle thing.
They can't probably hear me, by the way.
I don't know. Yeah, we do have the air conditioning on because apparently in October, when I'm supposed to have fall, it has decided that it's going to be like almost 90 degrees here in Chicago. Fucking weather. Yeah. Like, I was trying to be real good and not turn on the air. And, it got to the point in the afternoon where I'm like, no, I give up. Okay, again, with this, I'm just trying to get in here with some of this dark. I don't want to fully cover up all of the warmth, but I do want it to be mostly dark in the back part of the arm here. Get back under the camera again. So you can kind of see how this darker blue-green is, starting to give some more contrast. Sort of fully round out some of these forms a little bit more on like the bottom. I mean, of course, right now he's looking real dark. Again, it never looks really great until after you start highlighting. It's like after that first highlight. And then you're like, okay, this doesn't look like shit anymore. Let's see, get on the underside of this arm. And I have totally forgotten all of this foot. There's always like one place. Alright. So, skin's going a little slow, but really only because he has so much of it. And I always feel like it's, when there's so much, like, having it be more of a focus is time well spent. Alright, I'm definitely gonna get, back up under this arm, or in the back of this arm, where it should kind of just be dark anyway. Under this leg. I'm gonna jump back to the warm shadow real quick and do these toes. Because I forgot them. And it's one of the handy things about a wet palette is I still have some of the colors that I was using before. We're just kind of going to brush it across the toes here. Alright, and then while I'm waiting for that to dry a bit, I'm going to go ahead and do the cool shadow in the face. Mostly we want to get like under these cheekbones, under the eyebrow ridges, more down in like the neck and chin area. I'm going to get a little bit in the corner here under this one, or under these like creeping eye bags. Get like the hollows back here under the cheeks. Normally I say like also, like alongside the side of the nose a bit, but since this guy's got kind of like a really short nose that's pushed forward, we're still just gonna sort of like concentrate on like the corners here. And then in like the deeper parts of the ear. And then not forget the underside of the neck this time. I think we'll do that. Alright, so here we've got a good start on Haksa. We're going to go ahead and mix up some highlight colors now, or a highlight, well, a first highlight and followed by a second highlight. Hi, doggy. You come over here so I have to pet you. that wouldn't hurt. Alright. So, I've got a very cool green color. I want to keep it green, and I don't want to go, like, too bright. So, instead, I'm going to use this, these Chimera colors have a warm yellow and a cold yellow. Now, the warm yellow is very, very orange. That's this one. And the cold yellow is like a much more, I don't know, like lemony sort of color. So this one tends more towards orange, but this yellow I would say mixes better with like the cool green that we have. So we're gonna add some of this cold yellow and mix in just a bit of that. And then also teeny little bit of white. And then I'm actually going to add a little bit of their satin medium, which I think for me and the way I do highlights and stuff helps a little bit, because all of these have a very matte finish, and I have to say I'm pretty used to my P3 paints, which have much more of a satin finish. So just a drop goes a really long way, and helps me control the glazes with these a little bit more, and they don't get chalky on me. So I'm just going to pull some of our base coat out this way. It's one of the nice things about having a palette knife is I can sort of just take the paint and like scooch it out. So it's one of my favorite painting tools. You get a good mix. Without getting a bunch of paint in your brush, or without losing a bunch of paint either. So, again, I'm going to be glazing this on a little bit more than I was with the shadows. Just gives me a little more control over the highlights. Alright, let's start with this arm and see how... So we still see it's still a pretty, like, it's not a very yellow green. It's still a pretty cool, like, sea green. And that is from using the cool yellow rather than the warm yellow. And we'll actually use this highlight a little more liberally across the model. I feel like this is where, again, things start to come together a bit. Get this knee is way high up here. Normally, like, knees and legs I don't highlight as much because they're further down the model. Only, of course, this one is like almost on the same level as his face here. Alright, and we are gonna go for a lot of highlight on this leg. And definitely a bunch on the shoulder blade. Trying to figure out kind of where this knee muscle goes a little. Sort of comes up and attaches here, so knee muscle. So you can definitely kind of see as we bring up, you know, this arm and leg here, how finally, like, the contrast is starting to get there. It's starting to pop a little more. Alright, we're going to do a little bit on his chest here, but since he's kind of overhanging, like, we don't want to do too much. You know, it's kind of okay to get some of these pec muscles and a little bit along the in these abs here, but you know, we don't want to do too much, because when all is said and done, we really want the focus to be where's my darn model, you know, here. So we'll do enough highlights to make that happen, but still have, you know, some contrast on other parts of the model. Just not quite as much. I have to say, like, it's been one of the hard lessons for me to sort of figure out, like, where to focus my contrast, because for a long time I'm like, oh, I just need more contrast, need more, and then where do I need more? Everywhere. I need more everywhere. And it is kind of true that, you know, you do want a decent amount throughout your model, but you also want contrast, like, to help you focus, you know, where on your model, like, the interesting parts. And it should pretty much, like, if the model has any kind of face thing anywhere, like, you should be focusing on the face. Yeah, it is a very difficult lesson to learn. So while, you know, I highlight here on, like, the legs and in the chest and stuff, I'm going to be doing a lot of highlighting on the face, the shoulder, the top of this shoulder, you know, kind of some of this arm. And that's kind of the part that I primed the brightest too. So, like, the picture of the picture that I started with for, the stream announcement today on social media, like, those are actually pretty useful. Because I'm trying to, ahead of time, put more white where I want to I want to be focusing on the model. So his face up here is a lot more white than down here. And it just helps me think a little bit more about what I'm doing and where this is going. And again, it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm spending some extra time here on his skin, because he has so much of it. So I have to do that focus now in these skin tones in order for it to be right later on. And some of these places, along down the knee and stuff here, the one highlight that I'm doing now, that's pretty much going to be it as far as what gets highlighted and what needs to be highlighted even. And of course, since I'm kind of doing a little more glazing with these, like I said, I've got some of the satin medium in there, which is helping me not have it get too chalky. And he's got a bunch of scars and stuff. I'm sort of just ignoring them for now. But I am waiting for my glazes to dry before revisiting. Put a little on his side out here. Just a little bit. Alright, and then let's go ahead and work on his pointing arm here. You definitely want to get a lot of it up on this shoulder. I still want to paint this, but it's like, it's a half, oops, sorry. I dropped the brush out of my mouth. That's how I know I'm like starting to wind down here. And totally get more clumsy as the night goes on. Out some of this like bony elbow thing. Alright, so the only thing we haven't done with this first highlight so far is his face. And we're gonna pick out a lot on his face. So this whole huge forehead, because he's got a noggin. And these eyebrow ridges, tops of these cheekbones. This guy reminds me, he has a Green Goblin face. So like Spider-Man. Spider-Man has always been one of my favorite superheroes. Hands down. In many, many ways, comics are what got me into art. Particularly drawing at first, which led into everything else. I mean, I've always liked art, you know, through grade school, but like I started getting into comics in middle school, and I would try to, you know, take Spider-Man and draw him, like copy the picture that I saw in my comic in my sketchbook. Yeah, precisely, Rikers. Like, that's exactly what I did. And it helped me learn how to draw. Or at least was a really good start. But this guy reminds me of the Green Goblin. Like, you know, he's kind of got the, like, up on the board thing, and the face with the grin, and so Green Goblin Shaman. Right. I'm not the only one that sees that, right? Tell me I'm not crazy. Please tell me I'm not crazy. Green Goblin? He's one of Spider-Man's, like, main villains. Norman Osborn. Tries to turn himself into, oh, no, just, like, the face. You know, he's got, like, that big grinning face. And then the Green Goblin would ride around on this glider. So, like, instead of the stick. And he would hang on to it, like, with one hand and both of his feet. It's like just the pose overall. Right? I'm not crazy. Thank you. Like, he's got this big manic grin. Right? Yeah. He's always coming after Spider-Man on this glider with almost exactly this pose. Trying to highlight these, like, bags under his eyes here. It's just a little delicate. Get a little more in this forehead. Such a ginormous forehead. Alright. So, next, I'm going to go ahead and add a little more of the light, cool yellow, and just do a little more on his face in the next 10 minutes or so. But, you know, you can kind of see, like, he still definitely needs, like, one more highlight, particularly across here. There we go. But I do want to get a little more contrast into his face before it's time to go. Thanks, Rikers. I have so much fun with these guys. And I'm really enjoying, like, the paint that I've been using. It's just all around a lot of fun. Yeah, you know, having the one bigger model, you know, something to focus on, and spend time on. Feels so nice. And I think even with when I've gone back to do some of the smaller models, like the mini crate stuff, having had the practice on these larger models and getting the focus right and all of that stuff, it's really helped when I've gone back to the smaller models then too. Anonymous cheerer, thank you for the ghosty cheers. Oh, gosh, yeah, Riker. Not, again, like, for these Judgement models, they're all, like, the one-off hero. And it has been just really nice to ghosty bits. I think this is actually my first cheer. Or bits of any kind. I appreciate them all the more for being the first. Yeah. Seriously, I I've had a couple, you know, Patrick is a great subscriber, good friend. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people either know about bits or buy bits or I mean, those direct donations are always appreciated too, of course. But yeah, it's just fun. I've not seen the bits, especially the ghosty ones now that it's October. Get a little bit more of this light color. I just want to make sure I'm getting the tips of the ears. Really high eyebrow arches. And like in here in this inner eye crease fold thing. I still need to do the inside of his mouth. But yeah, really popped his face up a little more. And then we'll be adding some more of this brighter green to shoulder, arm. This shoulder and arm. It's like the upper bits. Take a little bit of my first highlight though and like do a real thin glaze over the forehead here just to tie things together just a bit more. working on that face. I'm gonna go ahead and put some in his shoulder here quick, just to sort of again add a little brightness. And I can tell too, for me, like the satin medium is helping quite a bit to not have this look chalky as I go about adding, you know, brighter layers. But I am still kind of blending my glazes out. Some here on this bicep. Here on the leg, because it's up so high. The bony knobby knee. There we go. So this is, you know, kind of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about contrast and stuff. Like, you know, up here, this is the focus here. We are going to bring it a little into this arm, just for the whole directionality of it. But that's kind of where we're gonna stop tonight, I think. And you know, definitely still have a little more to go on his skin, but not too much. That's about, you know, I'll probably do just a little on the front of this leg. And then we'll move on to other interesting things. Like, I have to decide if I want to give him some, like, face paint, or anything else, or if I just want to, like, let that skin like speak for itself, which sometimes I think is, you know, you can get real carried away with some stuff, but sometimes it's better to just leave it. Like, you can never underestimate like simple, elegant, you know, instead of making things too busy. So anyway, something to think about. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. We had a really, really good stream with a lot of people, a lot of chit chat, which makes my evening just so enjoyable. So thank you all for hanging out with me. Thanks for the subs and the cheers and the raids and all that. I had a really good evening. I will be back on Thursday afternoon from 1 to 4 U.S. Central Time. Give me a follow on social media. Make sure you're following me here on Twitch if you're not already. And I will see you Thursday. Thanks, everyone.